The notification pinged on my iPad while I was reviewing quarterly reports at my home office. A shared photo album invitation from my wife Emily's iCloud account. Nothing unusual about that. We'd been married 12 years, together for 15, and she often created albums from her girls' trips or family gatherings. I clicked it without thinking. The first photo loaded slowly, my internet lagging as usual on Thursday afternoons when the neighborhood kids got home from school. When it finally rendered, I stared at the screen for a full 10 seconds before my brain processed what I was seeing. My wife. Our bed. The distinctive navy comforter with the coffee stain she'd been meaning to replace. And a man I'd never seen before, both of them in a state I'd never imagined seeing her with anyone but me. My hands went numb. I scrolled. More photos, different angles, different days. I could tell by her hair, pulled back in some, loose in others. Different outfits discarded on our bedroom floor. That lamp I'd bought her for our anniversary visible in the background of one shot. The family photo on the nightstand deliberately turned face down in another. The iPad slipped from my fingers onto the desk. I sat there, a 42-year-old senior financial analyst who prided himself on maintaining composure during market crashes and hostile board meetings, completely frozen. My coffee had gone cold. The cursor on my computer blinked, waiting for me to finish the email I'd been writing to a client about their retirement portfolio. How do you plan for a future when your past just became a lie? The rational part of my brain, the part that had gotten me through 2 degrees and a CPA certification, started cataloging details. The photos were time-stamped. Metadata intact. Tuesdays and Thursdays mostly. The days I worked late at the downtown office instead of from home. The days Emily said she had her book club, her yoga classes, her volunteer work at the community center. I pulled up our shared calendar. Every Tuesday and Thursday for the past 4 months had some innocuous entry in her color-coded schedule. Book club, Jessica's house. Hot yoga, Sunset Studio. Food bank volunteer shift. 4 months of lies, color-coded and synced across all our devices. The album had been shared with me accidentally. I could see it was titled Private, and had been shared with an email address that was 1 letter off from someone else's. A typo. She'd meant to send evidence of her affair to this man, probably some romantic gesture, and instead sent it to her husband. The absurdity would have been funny if I wasn't fighting the urge to vomit. I checked the time. 3:47 p.m. Emily would be home by 6 like always, probably with groceries and that smile she'd perfected over the years. The one I'd thought was genuine. The one I'd kissed every morning for 12 years. My phone buzzed. A text from her. Picking up salmon for dinner. Your favorite. Home by 6. Love you. Love you. I stared at those words until they stopped looking like language and became just shapes on a screen. The house was too quiet. We lived in a 4-bedroom colonial in Westchester County, New York, the kind of place young professionals saved for years to afford. We'd scraped together the down payment 7 years ago, back when I was still climbing the ladder at Goldman, and Emily was finishing her master's in education. She'd never ended up teaching. Said she wanted to focus on building our life together once my career took off. Our life together. I stood up, legs unsteady, and walked through the house like I was seeing it for the first time. The kitchen where we'd hosted Thanksgiving for both our families last month. The living room where we'd watched our nephew's first steps during Christmas. The guest bedroom we'd been slowly converting into a nursery. We'd just started trying for kids 6 months ago, after years of saying we'd wait until the time was right. The time was never going to be right. I climbed the stairs to our bedroom, stood in the doorway. The bed was made. Emily always made the bed, hospital corners and decorative pillows arranged just so. I wondered how many times she'd remade it after those Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. How many times she'd smoothed away the evidence before I came home. My phone buzzed again. This time, a notification that Emily had deleted the shared album. She'd realized her mistake. I watched the notification in real time as she removed it, probably panicking wherever she was, probably in the grocery store parking lot having a breakdown in her Lexus SUV, the one I'd bought her 2 years ago as a surprise for our 10th anniversary. But I'd already downloaded everything. Every single photo, automatically saved to my device the moment I'd opened the album. She couldn't unsend them, couldn't take back what I'd seen. I sat on the edge of the bed, our bed, and opened my laptop. The rational part of my brain was taking over now, the part that had learned to compartmentalize during my years in finance. I created a new encrypted folder, backed up every photo to 3 separate drives, checked the metadata again, documenting dates, times, locations, evidence. That's what this was now. Not my marriage, not my life. Evidence. Then I did what I'd trained myself to do in crisis situations. I made a list. 1. Don't confront her yet. 2. Document everything. 3. Find a lawyer. 4. Protect my assets. 5. Figure out who he was. My phone buzzed a 3rd time. Emily calling now. I let it ring. The phone rang again at 4:15, then 4:17, then 4:23. I watched Emily's name light up the screen each time, watched it fade to black. My phone sat on the desk next to the external drives, 3 of them now, each containing complete copies of everything. The metadata spreadsheet was finished. Timestamps, GPS coordinates, device information. The unknown iPhone had been in our house 17 times over 4 months. 17 times. I'd marked each date on a printed calendar, cross-referenced with my own schedule. Every Tuesday and Thursday, I'd worked downtown, staying late for client meetings or quarterly reviews. The pattern was perfect. Surgical. My personal laptop showed the iCloud activity log. Emily had deleted the shared album at 3:52 p.m., 5 minutes after I'd downloaded everything. She'd also deleted it from her recently deleted folder. Thorough. But the cloud kept its own records, and I'd already pulled those too. At 4:30, a text arrived. Call me, please. At 4:35, we need to talk. At 4:40, I'm coming home early. I stood up from the desk. My legs felt strange, like I'd been sitting for days instead of hours. The house was still too quiet. I walked to the kitchen and poured a glass of water, drank it standing at the sink. Through the window, the Johnson sprinkler system came on across the street, right on schedule. Thursday afternoon in Westchester County. Everything exactly as it should be. Except the man who'd been in my bed 17 times. I went upstairs, stood in the doorway of our bedroom. The navy comforter was smooth, hospital corners perfect. Emily had made the bed this morning before I woke up. She always did. 12 years of made beds, coffee brewing automatically at 6:30, her humming in the shower while I checked overnight market reports. The coffee stain was still there on her side, 6 months old. We'd laughed about it. She'd been reading an article about fertility and knocked over her mug. The stain had set before we could treat it. She'd said we should get a new comforter anyway, something softer. I'd said this one was fine. Now I couldn't stop looking at it. Couldn't stop calculating. The first photo in the album was dated 4 months ago. We'd been trying for 6 months. 2 months of trying before she started bringing him here. I pulled out my phone and opened the metadata file again. Scrolled to the most recent photo, last Thursday, 5 days ago. I'd worked until 8 that night, called her on my way home to ask if she wanted me to pick up anything. She'd said no, dinner was ready, she'd made my favorite. The photo's timestamp, 5:47 p.m. I'd called her at 7:30, less than 2 hours after he'd left our house. She'd served me salmon with roasted vegetables and asked about my day. My phone buzzed. Emily calling again. I declined it and opened my email instead. Started composing a message to myself with all the documentation attached. Sent it to 3 different email addresses, personal, work, and one I'd created in college and barely used. Belt and suspenders, belt and suspenders, and a backup harness. The landline started ringing. We barely used it anymore, mostly robocalls and Emily's mother. I let it ring through to voicemail. 30 seconds later, my phone showed a voicemail notification from our home number. I didn't listen to it. Instead, I went back downstairs to my office and opened a browser in incognito mode. Searched for divorce attorneys in Westchester County. The results were extensive. Apparently, infidelity was good business in the suburbs. I opened 5 different firm websites in separate tabs, scanning credentials and specializations. One firm's site mentioned a free consultation. I clicked through to their contact form, filled it out with minimal information. Just my name, phone number, and in the comments section, need consultation regarding divorce, significant documentation of adultery, time sensitive. I hit submit before I could reconsider. The confirmation page promised someone would contact me within 24 hours. I took a screenshot, saved it to the external drives. 4:55 p.m. Emily would be in the car now if she'd left work early. The drive from her office, where she'd worked part-time for the past 3 years, doing administrative work for a dental practice, took about 30 minutes. She'd be home by 5:30 at the latest. I needed to decide what to do when she walked through the door. The analyst in me wanted more information. Wanted to know who he was, how they'd met, whether anyone else knew. Wanted to understand the complete picture before making any moves. You don't present findings to a client without thoroughly vetting every data point. But the other part, the part that kept seeing those photos, kept calculating timestamps, kept thinking about her humming in the shower this morning, that part wanted to put everything in a box and leave it on the porch. Let her come home to locks changed and garbage bags full of her things. Except we owned the house jointly. And changing locks without legal separation was probably illegal. And I'd need her signature on documents. And there were bank accounts, retirement funds, the title to her Lexus. I opened a new document and started another list. 1. Consult attorney before any confrontation. Separate finances. Open new accounts. 3. Document all shared assets. 4. Review prenup, if applicable, check files. 5. Secure all evidence offsite. 6. Change passwords on all shared accounts. 7. Install security cameras, evidence of continued affair. I stopped at number 7, stared at it. The idea of watching my own house waiting to catch them again made my stomach turn. But it was logical. If she didn't know I knew, if she thought the accidental share had gone unnoticed, or that deleting the album had been enough, she might continue. More evidence would only strengthen any legal case. My phone showed 5:10 p.m. 3 more texts from Emily. Please answer. I can explain. Don't do anything yet. So she knew. Knew that I'd seen it. Knew that I knew. The last text confirmed it. Don't do anything yet. Only made sense if she understood exactly what I'd discovered. I should have felt something. Anger, maybe. Or vindication that my suspicions were correct. Because there had been suspicions, hadn't there? Small things over the past months. Her phone face down on the counter. New lingerie I'd never seen her wear. The way she'd started going to bed earlier, claiming exhaustion while I finished work in my office. I'd noticed, and I'd ignored it. Told myself I was being paranoid, that 12 years of marriage meant trust, that Emily wasn't the type. Except she was the type. The evidence was irrefutable. 5:18 p.m. I heard a car in the driveway. Too early. She couldn't have made it from her office yet. I went to the front window and looked out. The Lexus sat in the driveway, engine running. Emily was visible through the windshield, phone pressed to her ear. She was crying. Even from inside the house, I could see her shoulders shaking. She'd been close. Maybe not at work at all. Maybe she'd been with him when she realized her mistake, when she saw the album had been accessed before she deleted it. The thought made my hands shake. I gripped the window frame and watched her. She lowered the phone, pressed her forehead against the steering wheel. The car stayed running. After a full minute, she sat up, wiped her face, checked herself in the rearview mirror. Then she turned off the engine and opened the door. I stepped back from the window, heard her heels on the walkway, her key in the lock. The front door opened. "Michael?" Her voice was small, careful. I didn't answer. Stayed in the living room, standing between the couch and the coffee table where we'd hosted Thanksgiving 6 months ago, where her parents had sat, and my brother, and our friends from the neighborhood. She appeared in the doorway. Her makeup was smudged, eyes red. She'd tried to fix it in the car but hadn't quite managed. She was still wearing her work clothes, gray slacks, white blouse, the pearl necklace I'd given her for our 10th anniversary. "Michael," she said again. I looked at her. This woman I'd known for 15 years, married for 12, the person I'd planned a future with, bought a house with, tried to create a family with. "Who is he?" I asked. The silence stretched between us like a physical thing. Emily stood in the doorway, her coat still on, keys dangling from her hand. Her face had gone pale beneath her makeup. "Who is he?" I repeated. She dropped the keys. They hit the hardwood with a sharp crack that made us both flinch. "Michael, please. Who is he?" Her mouth opened and closed. I watched her search for words, watched the calculations happening behind her eyes. 12 years of marriage meant I could read her tells. She was deciding how much truth to give me. "His name is Tyler," she finally said. "Tyler Bennett." I pulled out my phone and opened the Notes app, typed the name. "How did you meet?" "What are you doing?" "Documenting." "How did you meet?" She stared at the phone in my hand. "At the dental office. He came in for a cleaning in September. 4 months ago." The timeline matched. I typed, "Met at dental office, September, patient." "So you met a patient and decided to sleep with him in our bed?" "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like, Emily?" I kept my voice level, clinical. "Walk me through it. You cleaned his teeth and what? Gave him your number?" "He asked me to coffee." Her voice cracked. "I said no at first. I did. But he came back the next week for another appointment. He said he'd switch dentists just to see me again." I typed, "Patient pursued her. Multiple appointments." "That's romantic," I said. The words tasted like acid. "So you went to coffee?" "Yes." "When?" "The last week of September." "What day?" Thursday, I think. Does it matter?" "Everything matters." I looked up from my phone. "What happened at coffee?" She wrapped her arms around herself. "We talked. He was funny, charming. He made me feel—" "Don't." I cut her off. "Don't tell me how he made you feel. Tell me what happened next." She swallowed hard. "We started meeting for coffee, then lunch. Just as friends at first." "When did it become more than friends?" "Michael." "When?" "October." She looked at the floor. "Mid-October." I pulled up the photo metadata on my laptop, still open on the coffee table. Scrolled to the first image. October 15th. That's when the first photo was taken in our bedroom. Her face crumbled. "You have the metadata." "I have everything. GPS coordinates, timestamps, 17 visits over 4 months. Every Tuesday and Thursday I worked downtown." I set the laptop down carefully. "Did you plan it around my schedule?" "No, I mean," she pressed her hands to her face. "I didn't plan any of this." "But you knew when I'd be home late. You knew which days were safe." She didn't answer. "The book club," I continued. "Hot yoga, the food bank. Which ones were real?" "The book club meets once a month, third Wednesday." "So Tuesdays and Thursdays were all lies?" "Yes." The word hung in the air between us. At least she'd stopped trying to soften it. "Did anyone else know?" I asked. Your friends? Your sister? She shook her head quickly. No one knew, I swear. But he knew where we lived. He knew enough about my schedule to come into my house 17 times. I told him you worked downtown on Tuesdays and Thursdays, that you usually got home around 7. You gave him our address. He drove me home once after lunch. That's how you invited him in. Not that day, later. I typed. Gave a fair partner home address, invited him inside, provided husband schedule. Emily watched me type. What are you doing with all this? I told you, documenting. For what? I looked at her then. Really looked at her. The woman I'd married 12 years ago. The woman I'd bought this house with, planned a future with, tried to start a family with. For the divorce, I said. Her knees buckled. She caught herself against the doorframe. No, Michael, no. We can work through this. We can go to counseling. You brought another man into our bed. My voice stayed flat. 17 times. While I was working to pay for this house, this life, everything. I know it was wrong. I'm so sorry. Are you still seeing him? The question seemed to catch her off guard. What? Are you still seeing Tyler Bennett? No, it's over. I ended it. When? She hesitated. Last week. I pulled up my calendar, checked the dates. Last Thursday, the day before yesterday. Yes. Why? Because I realized, her voice broke. I realized what I was risking, what I was throwing away. I told him it was over. How did he take that? He was upset, but he understood. I made another note. Claims affair ended 2 days ago. Does he know about me? I asked. What do you mean? Does Tyler Bennett know you're married? Her silence answered the question. He didn't know, I said. You never told him. I wore my ring to work, she protested weakly. He saw it. But you told him what? That you were separated? Getting divorced? I told him it was complicated. Complicated, I almost laughed. You told him your marriage was complicated while you were sleeping with him in my bed. Our bed. The correction made something snap inside me. No, my bed, my house. You lost the right to call any of this ours when you gave your iCloud password to your affair partner. Her face went white. What? I gestured to the laptop. The duplicate photos. Google Photos flagged them. One set from your phone. Another set from a device that doesn't belong to this family. He had access to your iCloud account, Emily. He could see our photos, our calendar, everything we shared. No, that's not. I never gave him my password. Then how did photos from his device end up in your iCloud? She shook her head, confused. I don't know. Maybe he took pictures with my phone? 17 times? And uploaded them to a shared album I had access to? I leaned forward. Or did you give him your password so he could see when I'd be home? So he could check our shared calendar and make sure the coast was clear? I didn't. I swear I didn't. But you don't know how he got access. No. I made another note. Husband had iCloud access. Method unknown. What else don't you know? I asked. Do you know his address? Yes. Where he works? He's in sales, medical equipment. Is he married? She flinched. No. You're sure? He told me he wasn't. And you believed him. Just like I believed you were at book club. She started crying then. Real tears, not the careful kind she used during arguments. Her whole body shook with it. I watched her cry and felt nothing. I need you to leave, I said. She looked up, mascara running down her cheeks. What? Get some clothes. Whatever you need for a few days, go stay with your sister. Michael, please. I can't look at you right now. I stood up, moved toward the kitchen, away from her. I need time to think, to figure out what happens next. This is my house, too. Then I'll leave. I grabbed my keys from the counter. Either way, we're not staying here together tonight. Where will you go? A hotel, downtown. I don't know. I headed for the door, then stopped. Actually, no. You leave. I'm not the one who broke our marriage. You don't get to stay here. She wiped at her face with shaking hands. How long? As long as it takes. Michael? Go pack a bag, Emily. She stood there for another moment, then turned and walked upstairs. I heard her footsteps overhead, the sound of drawers opening and closing. The wheeled suitcase being pulled from the closet. I sat back down on the couch and opened my laptop, pulled up the list of divorce attorneys I'd researched earlier, started composing an email to the first one on the list. Dear Ms. Patterson, I need to schedule a consultation regarding a divorce. I have extensive documentation of my wife's infidelity, including photographs, metadata, and timeline information. Please let me know your earliest availability. I typed my contact information, then paused before hitting send. Upstairs, Emily was crying again. Loud, gasping sobs that echoed through the house. I hit send. The attorney's name was Patricia Wolf. I found her through a private investigator forum, not a Google search. People who documented evidence for a living recommended her in the same way they recommended surveillance equipment and encrypted storage, as a tool that worked. Her office was in White Plains, 30 minutes from the house. I drove there Saturday morning while Emily stayed at her mother's apartment in Yonkers. The building was newer construction, glass and steel, the kind of place that charged rent by the square foot. 4th floor, corner office. The receptionist wasn't there on weekends, but Patricia had said to come directly to her door. She was younger than I expected. Mid-40s, dark blonde hair pulled back, wearing jeans and a Georgetown law sweatshirt. Her office looked like mine at home. Organized chaos, files stacked in precise columns, 3 monitors on her desk instead of 2. Michael, she shook my hand. Coffee? Black. She poured from a French press on the credenza. Real coffee, not the Keurig pods Emily bought in bulk from Costco. The mug she handed me had a faded logo from some 5K charity run. I reviewed everything you sent. She gestured to one of her monitors. The photos, the metadata analysis, the timeline documentation. You did my job for me. I sat in the chair across from her desk. Leather, worn at the arms. I work with data. It shows. She pulled up a file on her screen. I've been doing this 18 years. Most people come in with suspicions and maybe some text messages. You came in with a prosecutable case. I don't want to prosecute anyone. I want a divorce. I understand. But the quality of evidence matters in New York, even in no-fault cases, especially when it comes to asset division and spousal support. She turned the monitor so I could see it. A spreadsheet, color-coded. Walk me through your finances. Everything. I spent the next 40 minutes detailing our financial situation. The house, $875,000 purchase price 7 years ago, now worth approximately $1.1 million, $340,000 remaining on the mortgage. My salary, $185,000 base plus bonuses. Emily's income, $32,000 annually from the dental office, part-time, 3 days a week. Retirement accounts, my 401k, at $340,000, her IRA at $18,000. Savings, $67,000 in our joint account, $12,000 in my individual account from before the marriage. The Lexus, paid off, her name on the title. My car, a 2019 Honda Accord, also paid off, my name only. No children, no debt beyond the mortgage. Patricia took notes on a legal pad, her handwriting small and precise. Any joint credit cards? 3. Combined balance of about $8,000. We pay them off monthly. Whose spending is the $8,000? I pulled up my phone, opened the Chase app. 65% hers. Groceries, household items, clothing. 35% mine. Gas, work expenses, subscriptions, Itemize the subscriptions. Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Spotify Family Plan, Amazon Prime, Costco membership, gym memberships for both of us, her yoga studio membership. Patricia wrote everything down. The yoga studio. That was part of her cover story? Yes. How much monthly? $140, unlimited classes. And she wasn't going. Correct. I checked with them yesterday. They have her on file as a member, but their system shows she hasn't checked in since September. Patricia looked up. You called the yoga studio? I verified her cover stories. The book club doesn't exist. I contacted the woman she claimed organized it, a neighbor named Jennifer Walsh. Jennifer said they'd talked about starting a book club back in August, but it never happened. The food bank has no record of Emily volunteering. The yoga studio confirmed what I just told you. She set down her pen. You did this yesterday? Yesterday and this morning. I made a list. I pulled out my phone again, showed her my notes. 17 instances of affair activity based on the photo metadata. 17 corresponding calendar entries in our shared calendar. I cross-referenced each one. Patricia leaned back in her chair. Most people wait for their attorney to do this. I don't like waiting. I can see that. She pulled her legal pad closer. Here's what you need to understand about New York divorce law. We're a no-fault state, which means you don't need to prove adultery to get divorced. You can file on the grounds of irretrievable breakdown of the relationship for 6 months or more. That's the cleanest path. I want her to have nothing. I understand the impulse, but New York is an equitable distribution state, not a community property state. That means assets get divided fairly, not necessarily equally. The court considers factors like length of marriage, income disparity, contributions to the marriage, both financial and non-financial. I set my coffee down. She makes $32,000 a year. I make almost 6 times that. The house is in both our names, but I paid the entire down payment from my savings. The furniture, the cars, everything. I paid for it. Can you prove the down payment came from your individual funds? Yes. I have bank statements going back 12 years. The down payment was $175,000. It came from an account in my name only, opened in 2009, funded entirely by my income before we married. Patricia made a note. That's good. That's very good. Separate property that can be traced remains separate property, but the house appreciated during the marriage. That appreciation is marital property. The house went from $875,000 to $1.1 million. That's $225,000 in appreciation, which gets split equitably, probably 50-50, given the length of the marriage and the fact that both your names are on the deed. But we can argue for a different split based on your contributions to the mortgage payments and home improvements. Did you do any renovations? New roof 4 years ago, $18,000. Kitchen renovation 3 years ago, $45,000. Bathroom updates 2 years ago, $12,000. New HVAC system last year, $9,000. She wrote down the numbers. Paid from joint funds? Joint account but funded almost entirely by my income. I can show deposit records. Do that. Get me 12 years of bank statements for all accounts, joint and individual. Credit card statements too. I want to see every dollar that moved in this marriage. I nodded. What about spousal support? She'll ask for it. She makes $32,000, you make $185,000. That's a significant disparity. The court will consider it. She was sleeping with another man in our bed for 4 months. Patricia's expression didn't change. I know. And if this were a fault-based divorce state, that would matter more. But in New York, adultery is just one factor among many. It doesn't automatically disqualify someone from support. That's insane. That's the law. She pulled up another document on her screen. But here's where your documentation helps. Spousal support is temporary. It's designed to help the lower-earning spouse transition to financial independence. The court looks at things like education, work history, employability. Your wife has a master's degree in education, correct? Yes, never used it. She's never taught. But she could. That matters. She's not unemployable. She's not disabled. She chose part-time work at a dental office, but she has credentials that would allow her to earn significantly more. We can argue that spousal support should be minimal and time-limited because she has the education and ability to support herself. I drank my coffee. It had gone lukewarm. How long does this take? Depends. Uncontested divorce, maybe 6 months. Contested, a year or more. Given what you've told me and what I've seen in your documentation, I think we can push for a settlement. Most people don't want to go to trial when the evidence is this clear. What kind of settlement? Patricia pulled out a calculator, started running numbers. Worst case scenario, from your perspective. She gets half the house appreciation, that's $112,500. She gets half the marital retirement account contributions. I'll need to calculate that based on your statements, but probably around $140,000 from your 401k. She gets spousal support for 3 to 5 years, maybe $2,000 a month. She keeps her car, her IRA, half the savings. I did the math. That's over $250,000 plus ongoing payments. That's worst case. Best case, she gets a quarter of the appreciation, minimal retirement distribution, 1 year of support, and we negotiate a lump sum buyout so you never have to pay her monthly. What's realistic? Somewhere in the middle. But Michael, she turned her monitor back toward herself. You have leverage most people don't have. The photos, the timeline, the systematic deception. That matters. Not legally in terms of asset division, but psychologically. She knows what she did. She knows you have proof. She knows it could all become public record if this goes to trial. I'm not interested in public humiliation. I know, but she doesn't know that. We can use her fear of exposure to negotiate a better settlement. Most people will pay to keep their mistakes private. I set the empty mug on her desk. What do you need from me? Everything financial, bank statements, tax returns, pay stubs, credit card statements, mortgage documents, car titles, retirement account statements, 12 years worth. And I need you to write a timeline of the marriage. When you met, when you married, major life events, when problems started. Be factual, not emotional. When do you need it? Monday. You'll have it tomorrow. Patricia smiled, the first time since I'd arrived. I believe you. She stood, walked to her filing cabinet, pulled out a folder. This is a retainer agreement. $5,000 up front, $400 an hour for my time, $200 an hour for paralegal work. Read it carefully, sign it if you want to proceed. I took the folder. I'll wire the retainer this afternoon. Then we start Monday. She walked me to the door. One more thing. Don't talk to your wife about the case. Don't discuss assets. Don't make promises. Don't negotiate. Everything goes through me. If she contacts you, be civil but brief. Don't engage. She's been calling. I haven't answered. Keep it that way. Let her sit with the uncertainty. I left her office and drove home. The house was empty, exactly as I'd left it. Emily's car wasn't in the driveway. Her mother's apartment in Yonkers was small, a one-bedroom in a building that smelled like old carpet and cooking oil. Emily would be sleeping on the couch. Good. I spent the rest of Saturday gathering financial documents. 12 years of tax returns, printed and organized by year. Bank statements downloaded from online portals, converted to PDFs, labeled by account and date. Credit card statements the same. Mortgage documents, car titles, insurance policies, retirement account statements. Everything Patricia had asked for, plus things she hadn't. The deed to the house. Our marriage certificate. My CPA certification. Emily's graduate school transcripts. By Sunday morning, I had 3 banker's boxes full of documentation and a 47-page timeline of our relationship, single-spaced, organized chronologically with specific dates and events. I'd worked through the night, the same way I worked through quarterly reports when deadlines approached. Patricia was right. I'd done her job for her. The email from Patricia arrived at 7:23 Monday morning while I was reviewing mortgage documents. Michael, preliminary research complete. We need to discuss strategy before Emily's attorney makes contact. Available for call at 9 a.m. PW. I dialed at exactly 9. I've reviewed everything you sent, Patricia said without preamble. The financial picture is straightforward. The photo evidence is irrefutable. What concerns me is the device. I set down my coffee. The unknown phone. Exactly. Emily claims she never shared her iCloud credentials with Tyler Bennett. The photos from his device appeared in her shared album automatically, which means either she's lying about the password or he had access another way, which raises questions about consent and privacy violations that could complicate matters. Patricia's tone shifted. I'm not suggesting Emily is a victim here, but if Bennett gained unauthorized access to her accounts, that's a separate legal issue, one that could muddy the divorce proceedings if Emily's attorney decides to pursue it. I pulled up the metadata file I'd created. The photos from his device only appeared during their encounters. Nothing before mid-October. Nothing after February 6th, when Emily says the affair ended. Right? And you believe her timeline? I thought about Emily's face when I'd confronted her. The specific dates she'd provided without hesitation. About when it started and ended? Yes. About everything else? I paused. I'm not sure what I believe anymore. Patricia was quiet for a moment. I'm going to be direct. The strongest position for you is a clean narrative. Adultery, documented evidence, equitable division of assets. If we start investigating how Bennett accessed Emily's accounts, we open doors that benefit no one except the attorney's billing hours. You're saying let it go. I'm saying pick your battles. You want this divorce finalized quickly and favorably. Every complication extends the timeline and increases costs. My phone buzzed with an incoming text. Emily's mother. Michael, please call me. We need to talk about Emily. I deleted it. What about the house? I asked Patricia. You purchased it 7 years ago. Joint ownership, but you provided the entire down payment from your pre-marriage savings account. I found the wire transfer records in your documentation. $80,000, which establishes your separate property interest, combined with Emily's adultery in the marital home. Patricia's satisfaction was audible. New York isn't a community property state. The court has discretion in equitable distribution. Given the circumstances, I'm confident we can argue for you to retain the house with appropriate offset. What kind of offset? Depends on what Emily's attorney demands, but the affair significantly weakens her negotiating position. My email pinged. Subject line. From Emily. I opened it. Michael. I know you don't want to talk to me, I understand. But there are things we need to handle. The insurance renewal is due this week. The property tax bill came. Your mother called me yesterday asking about Easter. I'm not trying to avoid responsibility for what I did. I just need to know how to handle these practical things. I'm staying at my mom's. I can come by the house when you're not there if you tell me when. Emily. The message was so perfectly reasonable it made my jaw clench. Insurance renewals, property taxes, Easter dinner. As if we were coordinating schedules around a business trip instead of the destruction of our marriage. Michael? Patricia's voice pulled me back. You still there? Emily just emailed about household logistics. Don't respond directly. Forward everything to me. All communication goes through attorneys from this point forward. She doesn't have an attorney yet. She will by end of day. I'd bet money on it. Patricia's keyboard clicked in the background. In fact, I'm surprised she hasn't retained someone already. Most people in her position move faster. I thought about Emily at her mother's house in White Plains. Her mother, who'd never particularly liked me, who'd made pointed comments about Emily settling for someone without family money, who'd probably been waiting 12 years for this exact scenario. Her mother has opinions about lawyers, I said. She'll want Emily to hire someone aggressive. Good. Aggressive attorneys make mistakes. They overreach. Patricia paused. I've been doing this 23 years. The cases that resolve favorably are the ones where opposing counsel comes out swinging with unrealistic demands. Judges don't respond well to overreach, especially in adultery cases. My other phone, the burner I'd bought specifically for documenting evidence, sat on my desk. I'd transferred all the photos to it, created redundant backups on 3 separate encrypted drives. Insurance against Emily claiming I'd fabricated anything. When do you expect her attorney to make contact? I asked. This week, probably Wednesday or Thursday. They'll want to establish their client's position before Easter weekend. Patricia's tone shifted to businesslike. In the meantime, I need you to do something difficult. What? Maintain absolute normalcy in all other areas of your life. Go to work. Respond to your mother about Easter. Pay the bills. Don't give Emily's attorney any ammunition to paint you as unstable or vindictive. I'm not vindictive. I know that. But a scorned husband who cuts off his wife's access to money, changes the locks, refuses to communicate, that plays badly in court, regardless of what she did. I looked around my home office. The quarterly report still sat in neat stacks. Client emails still required responses. The world kept turning even when your marriage imploded on a Thursday afternoon. What about the insurance renewal? I asked. Pay it. Keep everything current. Document every expense. Patricia's voice softened slightly. I know this feels like rewarding her betrayal, but the goal is the end game, not the satisfaction of petty victories. After we hung up, I sat staring at Emily's email for a long time. The property tax bill. I'd always handled the property taxes. 15 years together, and Emily had never once questioned how the mortgage got paid, or when the insurance renewed, or what our tax liability looked like. She'd trusted me to manage everything financial while she managed the household. Except she hadn't just managed the household. She'd managed a 4-month affair with a man who somehow had access to her iCloud account. I forwarded Emily's email to Patricia without responding. Then I opened the insurance company's website and processed the renewal. $3,147 for another year of homeowner's coverage on a house that might not be ours much longer. My phone rang. My mother. I let it go to voicemail, then immediately felt guilty and called back. Michael. Her relief was palpable. I've been trying to reach you since yesterday. Emily said you were busy with work, but Emily and I are separating. Silence. Then, what happened? She had an affair. More silence. My mother had always liked Emily. They'd bonded over gardening and recipes and the kind of easy domesticity I'd never quite managed to participate in. Oh, Michael, my mother's voice cracked. Are you sure? Sometimes these things are misunderstandings. I'm sure. But you two were trying for a baby. She told me just last month. I know what we were trying for. I cut her off more sharply than intended. It's over. I'm filing for divorce. Easter is in 2 weeks. I already bought the ham. Your brother and Stephanie are coming with the kids. The absurdity of worrying about Easter ham while my marriage disintegrated should have been funny. Instead, it just made me tired. I'll be there, I said, alone. After I hung up, I pulled up the mortgage account and checked the payment history. 12 years of on-time payments. Never late, never missed. I'd refinanced twice to get better rates, shaving years off the loan term. The house was worth approximately $740,000 now. We owed $320,000. Equity of $420,000 minus my $80,000 separate property contribution. I opened a new spreadsheet and started calculating scenarios. The notification appeared on my laptop while I was reviewing Patricia's latest email about discovery deadlines. Google Photos. Free up space by removing duplicates. I almost dismissed it. Almost. But something made me click through. Maybe the same instinct that had kept me alive in markets, the ability to spot the anomaly before everyone else panicked. The interface loaded with thumbnail pairs, side-by-side comparisons of nearly identical images. Most were exactly what you'd expect. The same sunset photographed twice in burst mode, duplicate downloads of the kids' school pictures we'd never had, screenshots saved to both camera roll and files. Then I saw our bedroom. 2 photos. Same angle. Same navy comforter with the coffee stain I'd been meaning to treat. Same anniversary lamp on the nightstand. Same family photo in the silver frame, the one from Martha's Vineyard 3 summers ago, when we'd still believed we were happy. The timestamps were identical. March 17th, 2:43 p.m., a Tuesday. I clicked the first image. The metadata panel opened automatically. Device, iPhone 12 Pro, Emily's phone. Location, our home address. Account, emilywright.photosciacloud.com. I clicked the second image. Device, Samsung Galaxy S21. Location, our home address. Account, unknown device, shared album. My hands found the desk edge, gripped it. The Samsung wasn't ours. We were an Apple household, had been since the first iPad. Emily's phone, my phone, the laptop, even the watch she'd stopped wearing after I'd given it to her for her 40th birthday. All Apple. I opened both images in separate windows, maximized them side by side. They were taken from the same position. Not approximately the same, exactly the same. The angle was identical down to the millimeter. Same height, same distance from the bed, same slight tilt that suggested someone holding a phone at chest level. But they weren't duplicates. In Emily's photo, the bed was perfectly made. Hospital corners, decorative pillows arranged in her specific order. Euro shams in back, standard shams in front, 2 throw pillows with the geometric pattern she'd spent 3 weeks selecting. In the Samsung photo, the comforter was pulled back. Rumpled. One pillow showed the clear impression of a head. I zoomed in on Emily's photo. The afternoon light came through the window at a sharp angle, casting shadows across the hardwood. March 17th would have been just after daylight saving time started. At 2:43 p.m., the sun would hit that window at exactly that angle. I zoomed in on the Samsung photo. Same shadows, same light, same moment. She'd photographed the room before. He'd photographed it after. The nausea hit fast. I made it to the bathroom, barely, and knelt on the tile we'd chosen together from the showroom in White Plains. The contractor had installed it wrong the first time. Emily had made him rip it out and start over because the grout lines didn't align properly. When I could stand again, I rinsed my mouth and walked back to the office. The photos were still there, still side by side, still showing me exactly what had happened in our bedroom while I'd been at the downtown office reviewing Goldman's latest acquisition proposal. I checked my work calendar. March the 17th had been a Tuesday. I'd had a full day downtown, 9 a.m. meeting with the executive team, lunch with a client, back-to-back presentations until 6. I'd texted Emily around 3 to say I'd be late. I pulled up our message history from that day. Me, 3:02 p.m., running behind. Dinner around 8? Emily, 3:15 p.m. No problem, making that chicken thing you like, love you. She'd sent that text 32 minutes after they'd finished. After she'd straightened the bed, arranged the pillows, erased the evidence. After he'd left through our front door, or our back door, or our garage, walking past the garden she'd planted, the grill we'd used for the 4th of July, the basketball hoop that had been there when we bought the place. After she'd photographed the cleaned-up room, insurance maybe, or trophy, or just compulsion. But why had he photographed it? I clicked back to the duplicate detection screen, scrolled through the other suggested deletions. More burst mode photos. More duplicate downloads. Then another pair that made my vision narrow. Our kitchen. 2 photos. Same timestamp. April 3rd, 11:17 a.m. A Thursday. Emily's iPhone showed the kitchen table with her laptop open, coffee mug beside it, the morning light streaming through the window over the sink. The Samsung showed the same table from the same angle, but the laptop was closed. The coffee mug was in a different position. And there was a second mug, dark blue, one of the set we kept for guests. I checked my calendar. April 3rd, I'd worked from home until noon, then driven downtown for an afternoon presentation. I'd left the house at 11:45. The photos were taken at 11:17. I'd been here, upstairs in my office, on a conference call with a client in Singapore. I'd heard Emily moving around downstairs, heard the coffee maker, heard the normal sounds of a Thursday morning in our house. He'd been here too. 28 minutes before I left. I stood up from the desk, walked to the window. Our street looked exactly the way it always did. Manicured lawns, 2-car garages, the neighbor's golden retriever tied up in the front yard, the same street where we'd walked on summer evenings, where Emily had handed out Halloween candy to kids dressed as superheroes and princesses, where we'd shoveled snow together last February, and she'd hit me with a snowball and laughed. The same street where Tyler Bennett had parked his car. What kind of car did a medical equipment salesman drive? And walked up our driveway and entered our house while I was 300 feet away, vertical distance, separated by floors and ceilings, and the absolute certainty that I knew what was happening in my own home. I pulled up the photo metadata again, checked the full details. The Samsung photos had been automatically added to Emily's shared album. Not manually uploaded, automatically synced, which meant at some point, Tyler Bennett's phone had been configured to share directly to Emily's iCloud account. That required her Apple ID, her password, her explicit permission to add his device to her trusted list. This wasn't just a fair logistics. This was integrated digital infrastructure. I opened my laptop's file system, navigated to the local photos cache, found the folder where duplicates were stored before deletion, copied everything to an encrypted drive, added it to the folder I'd been building since the day the album arrived. Then I called Patricia. Michael. Her voice was crisp, alert. What happened? Google Photos found duplicates, I said. Photos of our house taken from Emily's phone and from a Samsung device I've never seen. Same locations, same timestamps, different moments. He photographed our bedroom after they used it. Our kitchen while I was upstairs on a call. Silence. Then, send me everything. Metadata, screenshots, the works. Already encrypted and ready. Michael. Her tone shifted. This is beyond a fair documentation. This is evidence of systematic access to your home. If his device was syncing to her account automatically, we're talking about premeditated integration of a third party into your private residence. I know. Does your home have security cameras? No. Emily said they made her uncomfortable. Said she didn't want to feel surveilled in her own house. Of course she did. Patricia's keyboard clicked in the background. Send me the files. I'm going to have our digital forensics consultant take a look. If there's more we can extract from the metadata, location history, device fingerprints, sync logs, we want it documented before anything gets deleted. Already sent. Good. How are you holding up? I looked at the photos still open on my screen. Our bedroom, our kitchen, our life, photographed in before and after shots like a crime scene reconstruction. I'm fine. Michael, I'm functional. That's all that matters right now. She didn't argue. I'll call you after the forensics review. Meanwhile, check every other shared album, every cloud service, every backup. If his device had that level of access, we need to know the full scope. After we hung up, I did exactly that. iCloud. Emily's account showed 3 shared albums. The explicit photos I'd already documented, a vacation album from 2 years ago, and one labeled Home Projects, created in January, containing 47 photos of our house. Interior rooms, exterior angles, the garage, the backyard. All taken from Emily's phone. All automatically shared with one additional device, the Samsung Galaxy S21. He'd had a photographic inventory of our entire property for 5 months. I documented everything. Screenshots, metadata exports, sync logs. Added it all to the encrypted drive. Then I sat in my office as the afternoon light faded and tried to calculate exactly how many times Tyler Bennett had been inside our house while I'd been upstairs, downstairs, in the next room, living my life in a building that had stopped being mine the moment Emily gave him the access codes. The settlement conference happened on a Tuesday in late May, in a windowless room at the Westchester County Courthouse that smelled like old carpet and recycled air. Emily sat across from me at a table designed for mediations. Her attorney, a sharp-faced woman named Diana Kowalski, positioned between us like a human barrier. I hadn't seen Emily in person since that first night. 11 weeks of communication through lawyers, of forwarded emails and documented requests, of her mother's increasingly hostile voicemails that I saved and cataloged like everything else. She looked smaller, thinner. Her hair was different, shorter, darker. The pearl necklace was gone. She wore a navy dress I didn't recognize and kept her hands folded on the table, fingers twisted together. Patricia sat beside me with 3 folders and a tablet. She'd spent the past week preparing for this moment the way generals prepared for battle. Every contingency mapped, every weakness identified, every advantage weaponized. The mediator, a retired judge named Bernard Frost, reviewed the summary documents with the enthusiasm of someone who'd seen this exact scenario 1,000 times before. "We're here to discuss equitable distribution of marital assets," he began. "I've reviewed both parties' financial disclosures and preliminary positions. Ms. Kowalski, you're requesting 50% of all marital assets," Diana interrupted, "including home equity, retirement accounts, and 5 years of spousal support at $3,200 monthly." Patricia didn't even look up from her notes. Denied. Mrs. Wright contributed 12 years to this marriage. Mrs. Wright conducted a 4-month affair in the marital home while Mr. Wright worked to pay for said home. Patricia slid a folder across the table. "We have photographic evidence, metadata, timeline documentation, and proof that Mrs. Wright provided her affair partner with digital access to the residence, creating a security risk and violating the implicit trust of joint home ownership." Diana opened the folder. Her expression didn't change, but I saw her jaw tighten. "New York is a no-fault state," she said. "Adultery doesn't preclude. Adultery combined with security violations, systematic deception, and fraudulent misrepresentation of household activities absolutely impacts equitable distribution." Patricia pulled up a document on her tablet. Mrs. Wright claimed to attend book clubs that didn't exist, yoga classes she never attended, and volunteer shifts that were never scheduled. She diverted marital resources, time, utilities, property access, to facilitate an extramarital relationship. That's not a simple affair. That's conversion of marital assets. Judge Frost held up a hand. "Let's focus on the numbers." For the next 2 hours, we argued over every dollar we'd accumulated in 12 years of marriage. The house. Patricia presented evidence that my $80,000 down payment from premarital funds entitled me to a larger equity share, plus compensation for Emily's unauthorized use of the property. The retirement accounts. She demonstrated that Emily's minimal contributions to her own IRA while benefiting from my 401k growth created an imbalance that shouldn't be rewarded with a 50-50 split. The cars, the savings, the furniture, The wedding china we'd never used. Emily started crying around hour 3. Quiet tears that she wiped away with a tissue her attorney provided. I felt nothing. At 4:30 p.m., Judge Frost called a recess. Patricia and I stepped into the hallway. "They're going to cave," she said quietly. "Diana knows the evidence is too strong. She's just trying to get the best deal she can before Emily realizes how bad her position really is." "What's your read?" "You'll keep the house. You'll buy out her equity share at 30% instead of 50, about $126,000 instead of $210,000. She gets her IRA and her car. You keep your 401k and your car. Spousal support for 2 years at $1,800 monthly, non-modifiable. Clean break after that." I did the math. $126,000 buyout plus $43,200 in support over 2 years. $169,200 total to end a 12-year marriage. Counter at 25% equity and 18 months of support, I said. Patricia smiled. Already planned to. When we returned, Diana had a different look on her face. Resigned. Mrs. Wright is willing to accept 30% of home equity, her vehicle, her retirement account, and 2 years of support at $2,000 monthly, she said. In exchange, Mr. Wright assumes all marital debt, and Mrs. Wright retains her engagement ring and wedding band. Patricia glanced at me. I nodded. 25% equity, Patricia said. 18 months of support. Mr. Wright keeps the engagement ring. Emily's head snapped up. That was my grandmother's ring. That your husband paid $8,400 to have reset and resized. Patricia didn't even look at her. It's a marital asset. It has sentimental value. So does the house where you committed adultery, but we're not arguing sentimentality. Patricia turned to Judge Frost. The ring is appraised at $11,200. Mrs. Wright can buy it back from the marital estate at fair market value, or Mr. Wright retains it as part of his share. Emily looked at her attorney. Diana shook her head slightly. Fine. Emily's voice cracked. Keep the ring. Keep everything. Judge Frost made a note. Then we have an agreement. 25% of home equity to Mrs. Wright to be paid within 90 days. 18 months of spousal support at $2,000 monthly. Each party retains their respective vehicle and retirement account. Mr. Wright assumes marital debt. Mrs. Wright surrenders claim to the engagement ring. All other personal property to be divided by mutual agreement or sold, and proceeds split equally. He looked at both of us. This settlement is binding once signed. If either party contests, we go to trial. Do you both understand? Yes, I said. Emily nodded, still crying. We signed the papers in silence. My signature was steady. Emily's hand shook so badly Diana had to point to the line twice. When it was done, Judge Frost stood. The court will process the final decree within 30 days. You're both free to go. Emily left first, her attorney guiding her out with a hand on her elbow. She didn't look back. Patricia packed up her folders. You did well. I won. You did. She handed me a business card. This is my colleague who handles post-divorce financial planning. You'll want to refinance the house in your name only, update your beneficiaries, establish new accounts. He'll walk you through it. I took the card. Thank you. Michael, she paused. What you're feeling right now, or not feeling, that's normal. The satisfaction comes later, or it doesn't. Either way, you protected yourself. That's what mattered. I drove home in afternoon traffic, the signed settlement agreement in my briefcase. The house looked exactly the same as always. Colonial facade, manicured lawn. The garden Emily had planted 3 springs ago now overgrown with weeds I hadn't bothered to pull. Inside, everything was mine. The furniture, the dishes, the coffee maker that started automatically at 6:30 a.m., even though I was the only one drinking it. The bed with the navy comforter I'd finally replaced. The office where I'd discovered the truth on a Thursday afternoon that felt like a decade ago. I poured a glass of water and stood at the kitchen sink, looking out at the backyard. The same view Emily had seen the morning Tyler Bennett sat at our table while I was upstairs on a conference call. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "How did it go?" "It's done," I typed back. "I got the house." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, "Are you okay?" I stared at the question for a long time. Was I okay? I'd won. I'd documented everything, hired the right attorney, negotiated a favorable settlement. I'd kept the house, kept my retirement, minimized my losses. In 18 months, Emily would be completely out of my financial life. In 30 days, she'd be legally out of my personal life. I'd executed the divorce the same way I executed financial analyses, with precision, documentation, and zero emotional interference. "I'm fine," I sent back. That night, I sat in my office and opened the encrypted folder one last time. All the photos, all the metadata, all the evidence I'd compiled. Proof of betrayal, documented and irrefutable. I'd won because I'd been thorough, because I'd trusted data over emotion, because I'd seen the truth and refused to look away. But sitting there in the house that was finally, legally, exclusively mine, I realized something that no amount of documentation could change. I'd spent 12 years building a life with someone who'd spent 4 months dismantling it. And all my evidence, all my preparation, all my careful analysis, none of it could tell me why I hadn't seen it coming. The notification that changed everything had been an accident. A typo. 1-letter difference in an email address. Without that mistake, I might still be living the lie. Still working late on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Still believing in book clubs and yoga classes and the woman who hummed in the shower while I checked overnight market reports. I closed the folder and shut down my computer. The house was quiet. Empty. Mine. I'd won. 3 years later, I sold the house in Westchester and moved to a condo in Brooklyn. Smaller space, better commute, no memories embedded in the hardwood floors. The real estate market had appreciated. I cleared $340,000 after the mortgage and Emily's buyout. Emily remarried 18 months after our divorce was finalized. Not Tyler Bennett. I'd looked him up once, found him married with 2 kids in Connecticut, probably never knowing how close he'd come to being named in divorce proceedings. Emily's new husband was an accountant she met through her sister. They had a baby last year. I saw the announcement on Facebook before I blocked her. I dated occasionally. Professional women who appreciated directness and didn't ask too many questions about my previous marriage. Nothing serious. Nothing that required sharing iCloud passwords or coordinating schedules or trusting someone with the parts of life that could be weaponized later. My career progressed. Senior VP at a different firm, better compensation, more autonomy. I was good at my job, maybe better than before, now that I understood how thoroughly people could lie while looking you in the eye. The encrypted drives sat in a safety deposit box in Manhattan. I never looked at them again. Didn't need to. The evidence had served its purpose. Sometimes, late at night in my Brooklyn condo, I thought about that Thursday afternoon. The notification that pinged while I was reviewing quarterly reports. The moment before I clicked it, when I still believed in the life we'd built. I'd learned something valuable. Trust, once broken, couldn't be documented back into existence. No amount of evidence could rebuild what had been destroyed. You could win the divorce, keep the assets, execute the perfect settlement. But you couldn't unknow what you'd learned about human nature, about the gap between the person someone pretended to be and who they actually were, about how easily 15 years could become a lie with one accidental notification. I'd won everything that mattered legally. What I'd lost couldn't be quantified in settlement agreements, and that, I suppose, was the real cost of being right.